Hi, I'm Ethan. I love muzzleloading, and this is the 2022 Kibler's Long Rifles Open House. Jim and the rest of the Kibler's Long Rifles team took some time out of their busy schedule this summer to host this open house, this kind of meet and greet at their shop in Eastern Ohio for a chance for Kibler fans and muzzleloading enthusiasts alike to come see the shop, see what Kibler's has to offer, and get a little bit of an insight into the production that goes into the Kibler's Long Rifles line of kits. I arrived at about 11 a.m. on Saturday, the second day of the open house, and the crowd began to fill up really at that point. My father and I got in line first to go through the tour of the production area, kind of the shop where the kits are built and refined and things, and we got there and there were about 10 or 15 people in line, and then after waiting about 10 minutes the line extended past 40 people, which was really exciting to see. I think by the time that noon came around, the event really filled up with Kibler fans and people interested in the Kibler production line. Now I know that the production and manufacturing of the Kibler kits is really interesting to many of us out there, but even if you're just interested in muzzleloading, but also if you're interested in modern machining capabilities. But understandably, Jim didn't want any pictures or video taken on the tour. Jim and the Kibler team have worked really hard to refine and get their process going for the Kibler kits. So I can't show you any of that, but I can tell you kind of in brief, in layman's terms that I understand, a little bit of what it was like. As we stepped through the garage door into the production area, it felt like we were going into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory a little bit. On one side there were barrels on racks stacked high, sorted by caliber. There were machines working away with Kibler's Long Rifles employees at the helm, setting parts and changing parts in and out. In one section of the shop, they have an area set up with slabs or stock blanks kind of in raw board form, set up to be cut on a massive, what looks like post-World War II bandsaw, kind of that old school American machinery still in use, which is great to see. From there, the stocks are cut into a base stock blank like many of us are familiar with seeing at muzzleloading events, and they're set on one of the first machines that Jim purchased and refined to make muzzleloader stocks. On the exterior, this CNC router is a little bulky, a little rough around the edges, but you can see as it's working that it's taking these rough, big, bulky stock blanks and refining them down through a series of steps into the Colonial or Southern Mountain Rifle stocks that we all get when you order a Kibler kit. What was neat about this is we could see the Colonial and Mountain Rifle kits being produced while we were on the tour, and then off to one side we could see the new 5-axis CNC machine that Jim has been talking about on the forums to use for manufacturing stocks. I have to say, as a fan of American manufacturing and American ingenuity, it was really neat to see kind of the beginning of the Kibler's Long Rifles running with the original CNC router next to the big 5-axis machine. Now, it was neat. Our tour guide Mason was able to talk to us a little bit about the production changes that this new machine is going to bring. Right now, the original CNC router takes 2.5 to 3 hours, he said, to run out a complete stock. It runs 4 at a time at the moment, whereas this new 5-axis machine is going to be able to do that in less than 2, and they're going to be working on tweaking that and optimizing that for faster production as they move along here and kind of finishing the Woodsrunner production. In addition to bringing this new kit in the Woodsrunner to market, Mason also talked about the goal with the Woodsrunner kit and this new machine and all kits moving forward. The goal is to have even less woodworking in the Woodsrunner and future kits than you have in the Colonial and the Southern Mountain Rifle. This new machine is giving them capabilities to go in and refine these inlets and refine the entire process and just advance the entire control that Kibler has from start to finish on the production of these kits, which is really interesting. You have a state-of-the-art machine now working to replicate something that was hand done 150, 200 years ago. From there, we headed to the wax master room where Kibler's Long Rifles staff make the wax masters for all of their hardware. All these parts are designed and made, and the wax masters are made in the Kibler's Long Rifle shop, and then they're sent out to a family of foundries where they can be cast, just like traditional muzzleloading parts are, before they're sent back to Kibler's for kind of a final grading and straightening and adjusting depending on how well the casting process went. Like all casting and all muzzleloader kits, there can be some variance there. And the Kibler's Long Rifles team, and Mason in particular, talked a lot about how he spends time straightening and aligning these parts so they fit with the CNC machining of the stocks and the rest of the Kibler kits. Along with the wax masters that we were able to see, it was neat. Out in the showroom, they had a bunch of second castings that weren't quite right, weren't quite the thing that the Kiblers wanted to send out with their kits, available for just $1 a piece. And those did not last long. They put some out each morning and a little bit through the day. And, you know, from trigger guards to ramrod pipes to butt plates, just $1 for them. It was a really great, I think, opportunity for people to stock up on some parts so they could work on at home. And that was just kind of some generosity there that you saw through the entire event, even with the free food and snacks provided by the Kiblers. They really wanted it to be an opportunity for people to come out and see the production facility and get to know where these parts come from and how they're made. There was one more room in the shop that we weren't able to go into. It looked to be possibly Jim's office in there. One of the monitors did have some CAD software open, but we could not see what was being modeled on there. So I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it could be a little tease there that Jim was just flicking that out there for us for maybe the next kit. Now I know that people are interested in what's going to be the next kit after the Kibler Woodsrunner, but there is no official word just yet on that. I can say that they are working on, and they have a couple things in development, but it's going to be a little bit now. From there, I went out and had lunch and was able to chat with a bunch of muzzleloading enthusiasts from the Eastern Ohio and Pennsylvania region. It was nice to sit down with Willie and Chase from the Garland Ridge Runners Muzzleloading Club out east and talk with them about kind of muzzleloading culture out there. I don't get out east and that far east, and even farther east really, very often, so it was neat to catch up with them and talk about their journeys into muzzleloading. I also had a couple other folks come up and show me some of the accoutrements that they'd made from the tutorials that we've published here and through the NMLRA, which was really fantastic. I really love going to events. As neat as it was to see Jim's shop and things, it's also really neat to meet up and catch up with people who also enjoy muzzleloading and sharing their love of it. That's the kind of community that you really see at every muzzleloading event that you go to. And I really encourage you that if you don't have a club or a series of events in your area, try to find some. Even if you have to drive a couple hours, you're going to make some lifelong friends, and they're really going to help you move forward in your muzzleloading journey. For the rest of the afternoon, I had an opportunity to handle the Woodsrunner that Jim built himself and is using to inform the Woodsrunner kit. This is a really neat rifle. I know I've talked about it being kind of an in-between from the Colonial and the Southern Mountain Rifle, and you can really feel that when you're holding it in person. It feels like a very light rifle in comparison to the Colonial, which has that big kind of bulkier, earlier stock profile, but it's not necessarily as light and as fragile feeling or looking really as the Mountain Rifle. You have that nice wide buttstock with the short comb. The butt plate is a little bit more curved than I had really recognized in some of the images that Jim had put out earlier. And the barrel length felt a lot shorter than it actually was. It's just a few inches shorter than the Colonial, but the way that it's shaped, and I think the profile of it makes it really light. I told a friend that it felt a little bit like a Jaeger in holding it. Now, it's not necessarily as short as like a 24 or an 18-inch Jaeger rifle by any means, but it did feel lighter. I mean, it's really going to be a woods running rifle here. If you're in an area with a lot of brush, a lot of shrubs, this is probably going to be the long rifle kit from Kibler that you're looking for, really. Along with the finished one that Jim had made, we had an example of the stock made with the new 5-axis CNC machine. Now, there wasn't any extra work done to this stock, and I have to say the finish on it was incredible. When Mason and Jim are talking about not wanting to have any extra woodworking in this, I mean, it really even comes down to the sanding of it. If you've built one of the earlier kits, you may have noticed that there can be some CNC lines in that stock. And with this Woodsrunner, it looks as if it has been sanded and cleaned, which is really kind of incredible. If you're a fan of manufacturing, this is really, really neat. Just running my hands across it, it felt just as smooth as if you had taken some sandpaper all along the stock. The inlets were nice and crisp like we're used to, but really the exterior finish of it, I think, was the real advancement here, which was really neat to see. I'll have more about the Woodsrunner as we hear more about it. I imagine that we're going to start seeing them shipping soon. Like I said, we don't have any official word past the earlier in June release that they were talking about it being available soon. But I expect Jim to have possibly an example of this at the CLA show for people to see. I also had a chance to talk with Catherine, who I'm sure many of you have had an opportunity to work with as you've ordered and purchased your Kibler kits. It was really neat to listen to and talk about what the business has been like over the past couple years. And along with that, I wanted to talk a little bit about the demographics that you see at this open house, and then as well as the demographics of the people ordering and assembling these kits. It's something I'm ashamed to say I didn't really think a whole lot about. I'm really focused on getting a new generation and the next generation into muzzleloading, and I see obviously the value of the Kibler kit in that, but I noticed through the entire event that there are a lot of 60, 70, 80-year-olds walking around and looking at the kits. And in talking with Catherine, I got a little bit more insight into the demographics of their sales. And I think this is really interesting for muzzleloading as a whole, because according to Catherine, about 30% of their customers are first-time builders. They're building their first muzzleloader. They have a lot of questions. They found the Kibler kits because they want something that's accurate, affordable, and it's going to last them a lifetime. But apart from that, the next biggest demographic for them is folks in their 60s, 70s, and 80s looking to build their next or maybe even their last long rifle, where they might not have the capabilities that they once had to be able to build from a blank or maybe a rougher kit. And they're seeing a Kibler kit as an opportunity for them to continue their journey in muzzleloading or get into it even at a later stage in life than many of us do. And I think that's really important, that accessibility in muzzleloading. And it's something I want to think about more and talk with you more about when I'm out at events, because we shouldn't have to stop being interested and being active in muzzleloading when we get maybe a little too old to do some of the things. Now, I don't expect to be out roughing it in the woods when I'm 75 or 80, but I still hope that I can be involved in the sport, in the community then. And hearing that come out of Catherine's mouth, just talking about how important it is for them to make sure that everybody that wants to get involved in muzzleloading, wants to get interested in it, can. I think that's really powerful. I mean, she kind of joked that they wanted to have every man, woman, and child be able to build their own long rifle. And I think that's really important. And I think in an age where we see companies and corporations obviously much larger than Kiblers, and obviously in the muzzleloader space, just about everybody is staunchly pro-Second Amendment. But it's nice to see that people running a business are advocates for this and advocates for getting people out and being a part of it. Now, obviously, they're selling the product to get it going, but it's still nice to hear that ethos at the helm of it and their drive to make this affordable and accessible to people, so that you don't have to necessarily go out and, a lot of people can't afford a custom gun, and maybe they can't afford one right now, but they can possibly get into a Kibler kit. And I think that's really cool. And I think that's the kind of thing that we need to keep seeing and keep supporting in the muzzleloading space. I see it time and time again online, where we have the kind of natural progression of starting with the Traditions kits and then updating to a Kibler kit and then going into something like a Track of the Wolf, a Jim Chambers, or a Pecatonica kit, as people are looking for more difficulty and some other styles. And I think as we recognize that journey, we can see it spanned across time and different age demographics. I've said it for a long time now that muzzleloading is not dying, it's evolving. And I think as we move forward here, we're going to see that advance more and more as technology brings more accessibility into the muzzleloading space, just like we're seeing with the Kiblers. That's all I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this little tour of the Kibler's Long Rifles open house. Like I said, you can catch Jim and the team at the CLA show in August, and you can see more on their YouTube channel. Jim does a great job of producing a lot of videos and how-tos, and Catherine said they're working on getting some more out. So stay tuned for those, and I'm sure there'll be a new flurry of them as they get the Woodsrunner online here. I'm Ethan. I love muzzleloading. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.